Recording. Okay. So hi everyone. Yeah, recording. Hi everyone. Thanks for coming. So here today we're here to talk about financing and value redistribution in regenerative enterprises, and it's a masterclass from the program RegenU. I'll copy the link of the institute. Regen on the chat if you want to go to see more details about what we do and what we do. Globally, RegenU is a program that aims to harness the entrepreneurial and collaborative power of HEIs, so higher educational institutions, to train students and staff to generate innovative solutions and create better informed policymaking for a regenerative and just future. It's in partnership with INTBS, university in France. And this masterclass is the third one of a series that started with the first one on the state of the art of the regenerative economy, and the second one that was on exploring transformative tech about the regen economy. And like I say, today masterclass theme is financing and value redistribution in regen enterprises. And just a quick definition for those who don't know. For us, regen company is a business that makes the link between the three resources of the regenerative economy, which are HR, so human resource, financial resource, and ecological resource. And they are deeply intertwined. So that's why they call for a deep link between them. And today's, thanks again for our two speakers that are now on the Zoom. So first, Yannick Chamming, who is an entrepreneur and climate investor and an expert in creating successful regen business models. And also thanks to Vincent Javicoli, the director of URSCOP, which is a regional federation of cooperative corporations. And he will be there to talk about the role and the assets of a cooperative model in this value redistribution. And today, so we'll spend 1 hour together. The aim is really to be a quite open discussion in order to let Vincent and Yannick to share their expertise in their fields. And we'll do two main big questions. The first one will be on value redistribution and value sharing in regen businesses, and it will be a more theoretical discussion. And then we'll talk about the financing and the more practical solution to financing. And Yannick and Vincent will be able to explain more what they're doing for the financing of regen institutions. We'll end by a quick 10 minutes Q&A review. So if you want, you can already ask, or during the intervention, you can ask questions on the chat. And at the end, we'll ask some of the questions to our speakers. And we'll end by some goodbyes and a Google form to get your feedback. If everything is clear for everybody, Monica, I don't know if you have something to add. But I think we can start.
I was just writing in the chat actually that in terms of definitions and when it comes to state of the art on the subject of regenerative economy, please do check out the project website. There are resources available that will I assume everyone here is interested in the topic. So these resources are really great for learning more and getting more involved. So highly recommend checking out the site. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. And I put the link to the website on the chat. And now we can start. So first, if you maybe, I don't know if you want to introduce quickly yourself, Yannick and Vincent, before starting with the questions. So
yeah, can do that. So hi everybody, nice to participate to this discussion, and thanks a lot Arthur for setting it up and having us invited. On my end, so Yannick Chamming, as Arthur mentioned, I'm an entrepreneur. I created my company in high technology 22 years ago, and grew it over 20 years to make it an international SME, so not necessarily directly really tied to regenerative economy at this time, but more as a pure entrepreneurial mindset to develop and grow a company. I sold the company in 2019 to a big international firm, and at this time I got the chance to cross the path of a few other entrepreneurial projects, more focused on regenerative impact and more specifically on environmental and climatic impact, which get me some traction to see how entrepreneurship actually could have an impact in that field. So I decided to contribute to this project, and that's when I started both investing and advising some project like this. So today I'm involved in 3 different startups focused on environmental impact. 3 investment firms on the same, and also in an organization which is focused on governance, and I'm working on how governance can also as well help through the transformation of companies from extractive economy to regenerative economy.
Thanks. Yeah, it was very clear. Thanks, Yannick. And Vincent, maybe also if you want to introduce yourself.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me there. I'm Vincent Javicoli. I'm working and I'm a director of a non-profit organization in France, in Paris. It's called the Cooperative Federation, and we accompany companies so that if they want, they transform into a cooperative company. So I will explain, I think, later what is cooperative company. But it's so for me it's an old type of company. It's like 200 years ago, the first types of cooperatives, but very current in the way they meet the actual challenge we face in terms of social economy, ecology as well. And that's why I think, and we talk about this with Arthur, they are kind of manifestation of what one form of regenerative economy or company. So that's why I'm gonna talk about.
Yeah, we'll deep dive into the second part, of the intervention. So yeah, first to begin with, so first thematic is about redistribution and sharing value within the company. And yeah, first series of open questions, like I said, was how do we redistribute profits so that a company becomes regenerative, and how do we share the non-financial value, meaning the other aspect than profits, meaning the human aspects, for instance, the community spirit, the work pace, the family relationships. How do we share this value inside the company, to your point? Again, open questions, so you can answer in which aspect you want.
Vincent, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
You can go,
Yeah,
Yannick,
go
if you want. Yeah.
Yeah. So on my end, I would start by saying that to me, profit redistribution is not necessarily a mean to become regenerative. I would see it more as a consequence of becoming regenerative. So in that sense, becoming regenerative is for me getting the understanding that the economical model of a company, the financial economical model of a company, is a kind of a human convention which has to deal within a physical framework, which is environmental and social framework. So in that sense, my definition of a company which becomes regenerative is a company which take as a starting point the fact that it has to operate within social and environmental boundaries, which means rethinking completely the model of the company from floor to ceiling within these boundaries to reshape it and manage to get the economical model of the company to fit within these boundaries. And then, as there is this transformation that operates, profit redistribution happens. So what I mean is that it's not because a company focuses on profit redistribution that it is regenerative, but a company that becomes regenerative necessarily gets into a profit redistribution, but it goes far beyond just profit redistribution. I don't know if I'm clear on that, but that I would say that could be my starting point on that topic.
Okay. Yeah.
And clearly today, there's not that many companies that unfortunately are regenerative.
Yeah, I think we can agree on that. And Vincent, maybe what's your point on this, and maybe to also go further, what makes it regenerative in terms of value sharing for your company?
I will speak only about cooperative because this is the main model I know. As far as I can understand the regenerative economy, cooperative makes an answer on not all the subject of regenerative economy, but at least on the, I would say, on the social and human subject. And so regenerative economy is maybe probably broader in terms of resource utilization and cooperative. This is not the main topic of cooperative, the resource utilization. Of course, they have because of their DNA, they have this responsibility, but the link we do is that cooperative, I will dig into it, but are democratic companies and redistributing companies, and the fact they are democratic can lead them to embrace broader topics like ecology and resource utilization. But the main part is more about like the human and the social side rather than the broader side, meaning currently the environment topics. Maybe I can start by giving some definition of cooperative company. Basically,
Yeah, go ahead if you want to use the.
Yeah, you tell me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Basically, they appeared in many countries, but notably in France in the 19th century, so almost 200 years ago. And the basic point was that some like company owners and we would say capitalist owners like own the production means, and they employ people for the day, but the day after they may not employ them, and these people, there was no like work protection and law and regulation. So as many of us know, this was a time where very gross production and like industrial revolution was very strong. So with a big wealth production, but at the same time, it was it produced a lot of poverty amongst workers. So there were all this movement, this social movement with sometimes violent movements with many like protests and sometimes even revolutions. And one part of these people were part of this political movement, but as well they were workers, and they tried to find some solution to this problem of being employed just for one day with no insurance, with no guarantee. So they say very, like I would say, basic socialist approach of economic, saying we're gonna share our own money, like small amount of money, to buy some production, some assets, and make our own company in which we are all the workers and at the same time the owner, and we all owner with the same level. So this was the beginning in the 19th century, or the years of 20 or 30. So there was very long, like, tries and errors and regulations that made, but the basic system is that now it has become companies, like real commercial companies, but with very strong difference with a normal company, like traditional company, because and this difference are all the owners are workers. So this is a company with clients, with competitors, with finance, with bank, with investment, or everything. But the owners have to work in the company, and they can be like people like shareholders from outside, but they will never have more than 30% of the capital. So all the people that make the real decision are always the owners. Second, this owner are all on the same level on the decisions. Like every owner are worker, and every owner have just one voice. So they have to build some efficient system, but at the same time which are democratic. I won't go there into this because it makes a lot of problem. It can cause a lot of problem. So in the cooperative system, you have one people elected, and when he's elected, it can, like, in a way, manage like as every other company. But the fact that he's elected, it can be I don't know them revocated. So it changed a bit the way it's managed. It's in the company is governed. So third difference, there are four differences only. Third difference, and maybe this is the regenerative like aspect of the cooperative, is that when a cooperative company makes a profit, there are very clear rules on by which the profit is divided. So it says in the law saying you can give back to the shareholders, which at the same time are the owner, but it's not necessary. And we see that in cooperative system, very few interest to shareholder is given back. So the shareholder is like, it exists because it's in the French law as everybody, but not a very small amount of the profit is redistributed to shareholders. But at the same time, the law say you have to put and to let in the company at least 16% of the profit inside the company, but 16% is the minimum, and often we see the average in France is like almost like the half of the profit, so 50% of the profit is let in the company, because the aim of cooperative system is to be built and to last in time. So say the profit you make is not to enrich owner, but to make the company last. And the third way in which what the law said is that you have at least 20% of the profit, which is redistributed among all workers, not all owners, but owners and workers are the same. But you can have workers that are not owners, but all the owners are workers. But the basic system is that all the wealth and all the profit you produce is made by workers. So you have to redistribute this wealth among workers like equally. And the third and the last difference, it's a bit technical, but it say all the profit that goes into the company, it has to stay in the company. Like when an owner goes out of the company, it just takes the capital he brought at the beginning, or he brought again, but he cannot, as it is made in classical company, he cannot take parts of the capital of the I don't know the name, but of the wealth that stay in the company to make a profit for himself. So when you invest in a cooperative, you can take back what you invested, but not more. And it's say you work in a company, you can earn a life company. You can have high salary in cooperative if it works in very like good sectors, and but you cannot be rich as an owner. And so there's a 4 principle which made the company, and mainly like the way the profit is redistributed, and as well I would say the democratic system of decision, which for me makes the cooperative company at the same time a real economic actor, because if a cooperative company is not efficient on its market, it dies like every company. But at the same time, the way it works, it's very part of this regenerative philosophy, I think.
Okay, thanks, yeah, for this very clear explanation. So yeah, cooperative could be one of the way to introduce value sharing among a company. And back to Yannick, you said yeah, you don't know a lot of cooperative businesses, but among the one you know, what could be to you the way to share the value, be it financial or non-financial value, even if it's the consequences of I don't know, the will of the founder to be regen. What are the other ways? Like we can consider maybe going through a cooperative model to be one of the way, but what would be the other to you?
So before we get into that question, I think I say there's not a lot of company that I would qualify as regenerative based on the definition I gave, which does not mean that there are not there's no company on the way toward that. So I think for me, what is interesting is that there's definitely companies which are going in that direction through different ways. So of course, the cooperative that were presented by Vincent is definitely a type of company that is by design structured to share and redistribute profits. Unfortunately, lots of companies are not cooperative and are classical organization where the capability, the financial capabilities are high because investors are able to invest, and if investors are able to invest because they expect some return on investment, that therefore makes it difficult to engage on a regenerative business. But with that said, there are today more and more companies which are transforming themselves in that direction. I think what is important about these companies is that first, there are more and more tools available to help companies going into that transformation process. Some tools or methodology I know of, which and there's of course many other, but things like I don't know if you guys are familiar with the donut theory, which is a good way for a company to challenge itself in regard of regeneration. So basically, the donut theory is the understanding that there is a minimal floor, a minimal social floor that you should not go below to respect social engagement, and there is a maximal environmental ceiling that you cannot go beyond to respect the Earth limits, the planetary limit, the planet boundaries, and whatever you want to do, you have to manage to fit your economic business model, your model of product and services between this floor and ceiling. And once you're able to do it, you can be considered as a regenerative company because you respect social floor and environmental ceiling. So it's a good framework to start challenging an economic model.
Yeah.
A first good step actually is a mission purpose company. a company which set itself a mission purpose relying on a reason of I'm not sure about the English word raison d'être, but the reason for existence, which goes beyond the social purpose of the company. It somehow means that the company considers that if it's not to serve its mission, then it has no reason to exist, even though it could be financially viable. So it's already a mindset shift to go for that. Other tools that are very interesting is triple capital accounting. Triple capital accounting allows integrating within the same accounting framework financial aspect, financial performance aspect, environmental performance aspect, and social performance aspect, and translating one from the other so that you can gauge how much your pure financial performance is actually degrading the other aspect, or on the other side, contributing to it. So there are all these tools that are today emerging and that starts being used by companies which are moving toward that direction. And I think what is important is that the decision to go in that direction can be quick. And of course, it's a very tough and engaging decision from top management, but it's a kind of a tipping point. From one day to the next day, top management of a company can switch to this model to say, okay, now we have to manage to do that. And then, of course, it takes some time to do the transformation, to do the process. But as long as the commitment is bored with the guts, it's not impossible. It's just that it has to take time because it requires investment, it requires rethinking the economic model, it requires lots of things that cannot be shifted from one day to another unless taking major risk of collapsing the company. So I think what is really important in that context is, one, getting to the point of shifting the mindset and engaging in that direction, and two, being able to set milestones and a roadmap with the understanding that it will take many years probably to make this transformation to get into that spot.
And from your experience,
sorry.
Last question about this part is, from your experience, what has been the consequences of this switch? And then, Vincent, you can also say, like, have you seen companies going from like business as usual to cooperative model? And what has been the day-to-day and the impact on the sustainability and the profitability of the company of implementing, like you said, it can be really quick, the decision to share the value in a more regenerative way.
So yeah, about value sharing, I think what is important in that field is that once a company gets into that direction, generally it engages a very strong purpose-driven engagement from all the teams within the company. So it implies to have a very strong purpose-driven engagement, a very significant transparency toward everybody, and a strong leadership on a common goal sharing. So of course, that's not just a question of engaging the top management, but it's a question of engaging the whole company in that direction. But once this is done in full transparency, very strong transparency and a very strong common goal sharing, then it allows also repurposing priorities, and typically not necessarily focusing on redistributing the profit, but more on reinvesting the profit. Because at the end of the day, when you get into that direction, that's lots of investment. It's not something easy. It takes time. It takes quite some money. It takes going against a strong barrier to say, okay, now we will have to invest a lot of money that will not go through dividends to the shareholders, or that might not go as bonuses to the employees. So it requires everybody to be engaged in that direction. But once it's the case, that gives the financial capabilities to initiate the transformation. I can give you an example that went through the press a few months ago. A company called Laboratoire Expansions. I don't know if you're familiar with it. So it's a company which is in baby products for babies, like the Mustela brand. So the cleaning milk for babies and these kind of things. So Sophie Robert-Velu, which is their CEO, just announced that they are engaging on a strong regenerative focus, and that one of the action they've taken is to decide to stop all their disposable cleaning wipes activities within the next 3 or 4 years, I think, something like by 2027. The disposable cleaning wipes business for Labo Expansions is 20% of their revenue. It's a high profitable business because, of course, it's lots of goods to be consumed, and it's part of their core business because their core business is to deliver equipment products for the cleaning and the health of babies. But they came to the conclusion that disposable cleaning wipes is catastrophic for the environment. So they decided that they will cut it, and that they will manage to cut it within 3 to 4 years. That's typically something where another option could have been to say, we continue doing this business, and that will create lots of profit that we can redistribute to our employees. But it's good for the social aspect, but it's completely going through the ceiling of the environmental aspect. But this is typically the kind of ways to address it. And in that sense, to go to your question about how we share the extra financial value, it requires to shift gears on what you measure. Because as long as you keep KPIs which are primarily driven on financial performance, the human nature is always to try to overperform in regards of a measurement. So if your measurement is financial performance, you will try to overperform and you will forget about the rest of it. Now, if your measurement is about some environmental, some social aspect, and you set grids and KPIs on that, and you say that the economical aspect should be just what we need to keep the company sustainable and to generate financial capabilities to reinvest, to overperform on the other aspect, then you can start having a way to transform the company. So it's a question of what you set as a measurement grid for the performance of your company.
Okay, yeah, really interesting, this switch in also KPI. And yeah, quickly, Vincent, before we go to the second part of the masterclass, on what is the, so again, on what is the impact of a redistribution logic on the sustainability of companies, and meaning also financial sustainability?
I think so we worked so that some like traditional companies become cooperative company, so we can see like the transformation, and what we observe is two things. First is that as if we can say the transformation is made like by law, like by statutes. They become one form of regenerative company by taking the cooperative system status. But having said that, a company is of course as well an economic and a social and human system, and so for some companies this transformation can take them like in higher levels because of all what we can imagine, like workers become owners, so they're more implicated, and you redistribute wealth, so everybody is happier and more implicated, extra. You have as well this system by which the part of the profit, but a huge part of the profit is reinvested in companies so that it lasts. So we observe that if we take all the cooperative companies in the first 5 years, they are more resilient than as the traditional companies because of this system. But having said that, as it's a human system, you have sometimes distortion of the democratic values, and we can have some situation where this democratic system, instead of becoming better, like become worse, because they don't really understand that democratic system is not everybody does that he want, or we have to decide on everything. So if they don't shift their structure, and as well as Yannick said, their mindset, it's like at the same time we become democratic, but because we are democratic, we have to be even better in terms of decision process making and organization, because if we are worse, it's gonna get worse than before. So we observe that some situation where the promises are kind of broken because of this lack of change of mindset and lack of structuration of what can be a good redistribution and democratic process and system. I don't know if it's clear.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty clear. Thanks. And we might get to this part during the Q&A, but thanks for you both. Thank you both. And now let's go to the financing part. So to begin with, Yannick, maybe as you were also an investor, can you present us like what is to you the spirit of financing the regenerative economy, and have you seen from your experience solutions that has emerged specifically to finance and to like maybe reward these like you said earlier, all the measure and the practical measure like the raison d'être, the accountability. Yeah, do you see support in the financing side of the regenerative economy?
Yeah, so well, clearly it's still at the emerging stage, and unfortunately, big money remains focused on primarily making even more big money rather than setting regeneration as a priority. With that said, it's interesting to see that it's an emerging stage. It's something that is getting more and more traction and attention, essentially for human-driven organization. So whether it's business angel like me or family office or organization where they're able to create a very strong human-driven factor on investing. There are today some investment funds which are really strongly engaged in that direction. One example I can think of is an investment fund called Mirova, which is quite big. It represents, I think, a few billions of euros in terms of asset under management. And their leadership, Philippe Zawati, is totally 100% engaged in transformation and in financing transforming business. So there are some emerging solutions, some very specific. So where I'm invested on my side, I would say it's a different. I would mention 3 different type of activities. First, I've invested in startup with a strong potential of impact. And for those companies, these are companies which are by design regenerative, which means that they created themselves to be regenerative, and everything is set under that. To give you an example, one of them, a company called Innovaya, they are developing solution that allows making drinkable water into isolated areas in the world, as well as helping recycling water for industry by filtering those water to manage to recycle 70 to 90% of the water. That's the whole purpose of the company. And whether it's me or other investors in the company, nobody would have invested in this company if it would not be by design focused on regenerative business. Another one, Bedicasa, it's a company which focuses at developing an alternate solution to Airbnb with by default, so it's based on a triple capital accounting. Actually, their whole accounting is based on that, with the idea that the purpose of providing lodgement to users is to contribute to renovate, to improve energy efficiency of this lodgement, these housings, as well as restore biodiversity in this housing. So when you basically decide to go and take a Bedicasa housing instead of an Airbnb, you know that these are people who are engaged on improving energy efficiency and biodiversity restoration. That's a by design criteria. So it's all about setting by design criteria ahead of financial performance, and then consider that financial performance should come as a consequence. So that's first example. A second example is something called Team for the Planet. Some of you might have heard of because it makes lots of buzz on the web. What Team for the Planet decided to do is to create an investment fund where it's by default indicated that there would be no financial return of investment to the investors. But, and that ties to my point previously about setting different KPIs. They want to have a measurement of performance for the investors based on carbon impact, carbon reduction impact. So typically each year as an investor, we get what is called a climate dividend, which is an indication of how many tons of CO2 our investment helped reducing for the global footprint of the on the planet. So I put some money in that project. I know that I will never get any dividends, any financial dividends, any financial return of investment. However, I still own shares in the company for the amount of money I put in the company. But each year I get this climate dividend return of investment. So these are new models. And Team for the Planet, today it's 120,000 shareholders, from citizen from €1 to a corporation to 5 million euros. So that's, of course, it's nothing compared to the billions of dollars that goes through a regular economy. But today there are these examples moving on. And one last example I wanted to mention is it's not an investment, but it's an organization which helps initiating this transformation. It's Convention des entreprises pour le climat, so corporate convention for climate, which aims at helping company leaders understanding the challenges of environmental crisis and then start thinking about transforming their companies. And what is interesting is that I think companies which are initiating this transformation are building more reliable, robust business for the long term, because regulation will get harder, because risk will get stronger, because business as usual will get more and more challenged. And the sooner a company start thinking differently and start thinking, setting more a higher priority to robustness than performance, the higher chance it has to last for the long term. So I think once management understands, and eventually even shareholders understand, that maybe being a bit lower on performance, on financial performance, to gain on robustness is smart, then it's a good way to initiate a path to regeneration. Sorry, I've been a bit long on that, but
Oh, it's okay. It's really interesting. I mean, it's okay. We'll cut down on the questions, I think. Thanks. And on your side, Vincent, maybe also more on the public aspect, I think, regarding cooperatives. You have some insights for financing?
First, what we see, because as Yannick said at the beginning of his intervention, almost everybody who creates a company nowadays and even before does that for financial reason. And I come from a business environment, and all people I know, like most people I know who create a company have this idea of selling it like 5 or 10 or 15 years later and making a profit with that. And so we navigate in this environment. And as far as cooperative is concerned, we know that not like all kind of markets of entrepreneurs are not 100%. So we are gonna try to find maybe the 1% of all these entrepreneurs who are not interested in selling back their companies like in 10 years or 15 years, but we are more interested in collective aspect and who taking the risk together. And so this is what is important, and not selling and making a profit out of a company. So it narrows the public, and I think we are in this very like strange moment, because at the same time these kind of ideas of redistribution and extra financial values are going higher and higher, but at the same time we see as well that the financial like effects and way of thinking is still very strong, and maybe even stronger and stronger as the crisis is becoming worse. So we are, in my view, very two different tendencies, and we have more and more collective, but at the same time more and more individualistic. So it's not necessarily easier now, but so the main point. As far as finance is concerned in cooperative, we can see the regenerative aspect, like inside cooperative company and between and outside cooperative. The inside stuff is that, as I said, like most of the profit is reinjected in the company so that it becomes more robust and it can grow. At the same time, as I said, the part of the profit is redistributed among workers. And the idea is that this worker keeps some for them, but as well reinvest in capital of the cooperative. So you have a kind of circle and virtuous circle, like the way the money you can earn is as reinvested in your own company. So it makes a very interesting circle, and it comes to compensate the fact that in cooperative, as the owner are the worker, so there is very few outside investor which can pose problems to develop. So you have other secrets, like financial secrets today with banks, with some people that can lend some money, but so it has to compensate the fact that there is fewer outside investors. And then we have as well this system, at least in France, but I think in Canada or in Italy, where cooperative system as well developed, you can find some similar stuff. It's like all the cooperative company, for example, in France, you have 5,000 and 500 cooperative company, and they all put some money in one common financial fund, whose aim is not making some financial profit, but which is to help other companies that are in some trouble or some emerging cooperative to lend them next to banks and so actors of financial system. So I would say the regenerative and the circle of the money is made between cooperatives as well, who organize for many years to be cooperative between them. And there is this idea that the money stays inside the cooperative system and between cooperative to put the money where it is needed, rather than to be taken by like investor with only financial view. So I think this kind of illustrate as well how the cooperative system has managed to find a way to compensate the fact that there is no outside investors because the owner has to have the power. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Very interesting, yeah, also. And maybe we have time for one question from Monica, if you have one, maybe, or anyone in the Zoom.
If no one else does, I was, if anyone does, please interrupt me, but I was wondering, I have a policy background, and I was wondering, so you've both mentioned different sources of external motivation for companies to, well, new companies to be created in a regenerative way or as a regenerative company, and then for existing companies to transfer towards a regenerative model. What would you say are the most important external factors? I'm asking as someone coming from a policy background, does policy matter, and how much? And are there any other, what would you say are the most important, if not, well, what are the other most important external factors that are driving this change?
Yeah. So my experience is that I think policy is generally seen as a constraint more than an opportunity. So doesn't mean that it's not necessary, because it's definitely necessary to move the big mass of companies and enforce this. But for the companies which have seen initiating a transformation, it was not related to policies. They took then policies as part of the overall process and thinking to say, okay, let's make it an opportunity. But their driving force was for a good number of them understanding the challenges we will be facing in the short to midterm. And then you have two main factors. One is the understanding that in any case, considering what we will be facing moving forward, they better shift now rather than suffer later. And so it's better to anticipate and plan rather than have to do it under constraints or in a bad situation. And the second one is really based on basically being able to do the step back from what is the most important thing. Is it about the condition of living on the planet, or is it about the actual points of EBIT on their profit, on their P&L? And clearly, these things I see it happening mainly in small to mid-sized companies, and essentially most cases family-driven business more than big multinational corporations, where the decision factor are quite dehumanized. But in small to mid-sized companies, yes, this is the kind of things that we can see happening. And then they take policy and regulation as part of the process of transformation.
The question is, is the policy and the law and regulation has an impact on this kind of transformation? That's the question. Yeah. I will answer just for cooperative. Like one part of the answer is that the main part is probably the kind of mindset and why people create company, why do they work, and I would say nowadays it's still, and we can understand, very financial motivations. So this is something not totally depending on about policy, and this is just the way we think about economy since the last 200 years, and it's even deeper than policy making. Having said that, I think policy could have a major role in terms of putting constraints in the environment. I will take one example. There were a law 10 years ago for what we call in France social economy. And in this law, in the social economy, there was this part of the law saying all business, all company which were sold as an obligation for the owner of the company, not only to look for a new investor, but as well to inform his own salaries so that they can buy the company to make it a cooperative. And this part of the law was introduced, and at the last moment it was rejected by the law because we saw after that there was a strong lobby for the syndicate in France of owner of the company saying, no, we cannot do that. We want to trade company between investors and owners, but not saying to salaries, it's too risky, we don't want that. And for us, it was a massive deception, but we can imagine that if it was part of the law, then the amount of cooperative would have been multiplied by 10, because the fact of to have the obligation to tell to your salaries that if they want, and if they can build a system to buy the company of their own company when the owner go away, is too old and doesn't work anymore. So it could have multiplied the amount of companies. So I'd say the policy can have a strong role, even if it's not the only criteria. Yeah.
One point maybe I wanted to add about this point, on my experience, even though policy is not the main trigger I see for initiating the transformation, it could be an interesting trick to use to initiate a transformation, and typically it's something I'm using as a board member in companies, using the CSRD requirement that is now implemented in Europe, or that is on the way to be implemented in Europe, as a way to when I speak with some CEOs I'm supporting through the board, is to say, well, anyway, you have to deal with CSRD, so you have to get into that. So how about taking it as an opportunity more than a constraint, and try to work from there to investigate further the topic. So it can be a trigger for an external player to use it wisely to initiate some transformation.
I see. So you can, yeah, thank you both. That's really interesting. I recognize that there are multiple factors, but yeah, for example, what Vincent, you said about how there might be more cooperative companies if the law had been passed. And Yannick, yeah, I think that's a really interesting strategy, to take something that does exist and use it to say, you know, this is beginning, this is happening, and it looks like this is going to continue in regulation, so we might as well get behind it now. So yeah. I like that strategy. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, and thank you both for your intervention. It was really interesting. I learned a lot of things as myself also. And just a quick word to end. If you like the public, you could answer the forms the form Monica put on the chat. I'll also send it to you by mail to get feedback. And a quick take on the next masterclass organized by Regenerative. So on the 5th of April, ecosystemic value creation thinking, and then two other masterclass that will be available on Zoom, I think also, with our partner, so in Munster and UUIN. Maybe if you don't know if you want to add a quick word, Monica, on this, but no, okay, well.
Thank you, Arthur.
Yeah, thank you all. It's 4 to 3, and have a good afternoon and a good weekend, and hope to see you soon.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you very much.